You're listening to School Counseling Simplified, a podcast with easy-to-implement strategies for busy school counselors. Here's your host, Rachel Davis from Bright Futures Counseling.
Hey there, you're listening to another episode of School Counseling Simplified. Today I interviewed Bradford Goodridge from The Good Counselor. You may remember Bradford, he recently presented at our Summer Summit Conference all about paws, and that's building a comprehensive school counseling whole group lesson plan. He calls his paws at his school because it goes with his mascot, and it's also reminding students to pause and reflect. I love the play on words. I love talking with Bradford. He has a really great story and a great information when it comes to your class lessons, how much time you should spend on them, how to integrate your existing curriculum along with your school's core values. He's really taken over his and really started them from scratch. So it's really inspirational to hear his tips for that. I think you're going to love this interview with Bradford. Let's play a little game of Would You Rather, School Counselor Edition. Okay, would you rather spend your weekend planning a group or spend your afternoon sitting in irrelevant PD? Yikes. Or would you rather be the only counselor with no one to collaborate with, or to spend hours searching online for engaging activities? All of these options are pretty bad, right? But unfortunately, they're all too real. But what if I told you I had a solution for you? What if I told you I had access to hundreds of school counseling lessons, groups, and activities, counselor-specific trainings on the topics you need most, and a community of like-minded school counselors to support you? You would say, yes, please. Well, that is what Impact is all about. Impact is my monthly membership for school counselors, and it helps you with all of these things. You get access to hundreds of resources. That's unlimited free downloads. Log in and get what you need right away to every single resource that's in my store. We add new resources each and every month. We're adding a new middle school and elementary resource each month, and some of these are bonus Impact exclusives, meaning that you can get resources just for members. You can request resources that you need and easily search so you can find exactly what you're looking for. And let's talk about the trainings, counselor-specific trainings on the topics you need most. We do these each and every month as part of our Coffee with the Counselor series. Impact members get to join for absolutely free. You earn PD certificates, and you get exclusive access to members-only things like the Ultimate Small Group Experience and our Summer Summit Conference. And the community. Y'all, this is possibly my favorite part of Impact. I so look forward to jumping on these calls, to getting to know counselors who are similar to me and also completely different. It's so fun to hear from your experiences and your challenges, and everyone brings a unique perspective to the table. We have an exclusive online community, and we even have a cool app where you can chat with other counselors in these community circles. We have our monthly calls, like I mentioned, twice a month, and we share wins, troubleshoot tough cases, and just talk about what it's like to be a counselor, because so often we're on our own island at our school sites. So if any of that sounds like it's for you, I would love to see you inside Impact. Go to stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/impact to solve all of your counselor problems. And I have a special offer for my listeners. Use code POD at checkout to save 10% off your first month. Okay, let's go to today's episode. Hi, Bradford. How are you today?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Do you go by Bradford or Brad?
Bradford.
Bradford. Okay, cool. I love that name. It's such a
Thank you.
a powerful name. So I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. You recently, this will air after our summer summit, and you were one of our presenters, which was awesome. So I cannot wait to get to know you a little better and hear what you have to share with our listeners.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So let's start by telling us just a little bit about who you are and your background in education.
Yeah, so I grew up in Duluth, Georgia. I attended a Seventh-day Adventist school like all my life, elementary, middle, high school, even college. And my plan was to be a pastor. And after graduating with my bachelor's in theology, I found out about school counseling. Didn't have a school counselor growing up. Didn't know that was a thing. And it felt like the perfect fit. And so made that change. And so I've just wrapped up my 5th year here in Chattanooga, Tennessee as an elementary school counselor.
Oh, amazing. Now, are you at a public school or are you at a Seventh-day Adventist school?
Public school, yes.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you were from Duluth, Georgia. I'm from Georgia also, from
Oh,
Hiram.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Awesome. So cool. Yeah. So let's talk more about that. So what I know kind of your area of expertise is here and what I want to dive deeper in is what you were talking about at Summer Summit. And that's on your, you call it paws for the year and you kind of played on your school's mascot, right? Can you tell us a little bit
Yes.
about the program?
Yeah, so our mascot is the lion, and my first year at the current school I'm at, that was the year right after the shutdown, so fall of
Mhm.
2020, and it was a new school for me, and I was just kind of like figuring things out. Really didn't do a whole lot of classroom lessons that year, but I was asked by our new principal my second year to fill a opening in our related arts schedule, and so I was like, what am I going to call this? Like, I don't want to call it SEL. Like, what is that? I
Mhm.
want to call it guidance. So the lions, we have these little paw prints all over the hallways. So like we're gonna call it pause because we're taking that pause to reflect and talk through how our day is going. Maybe it's a breathing exercise, or we can go so many different directions. So I try to design those classroom lessons to be that opportunity to really pause and check in with students and give them that opportunity to I don't know, share from the heart and use their voice, and it's their they say some pretty honest things. It can almost feel like venting, but it's like, hey, as long as we're being respectful and appropriate, this is your time to share.
Oh, I love that. I love
Yeah.
the play on words, the pause and the take the time
hmm
to pause. So are you doing, is this set up like a restorative circle? Like are the kids all going around sharing, doing like a feelings check and sharing how they're feeling? Or are you doing more like instructional lesson? What's it look like?
I would say it's definitely more of an instructional lesson. Like they come in and it's like, all right, you're at table one, table two, table three,
Mhm.
just coming in like that. And um, my opener for every lesson is it's a great day to be a Red Bank Lion because, and then they can just, the floor is open. So we could have sometimes everybody sharing one or just a couple kids and they're, kind of just being optimistic and being positive, like what's good in their life. It can be, we get to be at pause today. And I'm like, all right, you're just trying to like,
Butter me
butter
up.
me up. Or it could be like, hey, we get to be with our friends. We get to be on the new playground equipment. It's just helping them to be a little more positive when maybe we're having a rough morning. So definitely more instructional.
Yeah, I love that. So did you have a program to kind of base this off of? Was there a counselor before you, or did you kind of create everything from scratch?
Pretty much I created everything from scratch. Uh, the first school I was at with the county, uh, the assistant principal had me seeing every single class like every week. So it was
Oh,
like
wow.
all day classroom lessons,
Yeah.
and just seeing them week after week. And it was like, oh, I'm making it up. Like I don't know what's left
Yeah.
to talk about. And that was the year that the shutdown happened. So at my current school, yeah, it's making it from scratch. I've used a little bit of like the little spot series,
Mhm.
access to Second Step and Pure Edge, but I don't know. I just like that chance to try and fail, right? Like just let me create this myself, see what happens. Will it work? And I look to other counselors and what they're creating, but I want to have something that I don't know, kind of get my hands dirty and figure it out myself.
I love that. I love it. Yeah. And I think the kids love that too, right? Like they can tell if you're coming through with some like script you have from Second Step that you don't really like
Mhm.
doing and you may feel like awkward, or if you like have something you're excited about that you want to try
Mhm.
out, I feel like the kids can sense the
Yeah.
enthusiasm. Awesome. Well, a lot of our listeners are newer counselors. So I'm curious, what would you say? Like, let's say or maybe they're been a counselor for a while, but this year they have to start their lessons from scratch.
Mhm.
Can you kind of give them like a little guidance on when it comes to planning out your lessons?
Yeah. I
Whether
don't
it's
know.
like scheduling or, well, first let me ask you, are you still doing the once a week every class or you've tapered back some, right?
No, no. Thankfully, at this
Yeah.
school, we got another counselor this year, so there's two of us now,
Oh,
and
nice.
so we are on a bi-weekly schedule. And right
Mhm.
now, that's also the plan to continue with that for next school year. So I teach grades 3 through 5. She does K through second, and I tend to lead out with our pre-K classes. And so um, we have our 5 uh, mandatory lessons from the district. So SEL, academic, career, bullying, and safe and unsafe touch. And so I'm like, all right, how are we going to do that? And so my school has 4 Lion tenets: leadership, innovation, ownership and never give up. And so that was kind of helpful to me, like fill those other slots outside those mandatory lessons and kind of break that down. So thinking about new counselors or thinking about how they want to design or schedule their lessons. One, are you in a schedule? Are you able to kind of create it yourself with teachers? Or just think about like what your values are at your school and then like, okay, if I have my mandatory lessons, I want to make sure that we're also speaking to what our school is about, whatever that might
Mhm.
look like for them.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. So mandated lessons and maybe like your school's values. Do you do any like as needed lessons from teachers, like based on request?
Yes, I've had that option for them every year that I've been at my current school. This year, because they were seeing us so much, there were very few, if any,
Right.
requested lessons. But in the past, yeah, hey, my class is really struggling with, not speaking kindly to each
Hmm.
other or something like that. So teachers, um, of course, are always welcome to request a lesson.
Yeah, I love to offer that option as
Yeah.
well. Because a lot of times it might be kind of specific to one grade level or one
Yeah.
class.
Yeah.
And what about juggling small groups and individual sessions since you're doing, excuse me, so much class lessons?
Yeah, so that was a big challenge this year because of the biweekly schedule. So um it was just kind of having an honest conversation. Because I feel like my lunch groups are pretty popular.
Hmm.
So everyone's like it's like the first day of school, a kid will be like, "Can I have lunch with you?" And it's like, chill, like let's get to
Yeah,
your
you're right.
friends, get to know your new teacher, like
Yeah.
spend some time together before you come to my room. And so at the start of the school year, I would pitch my different small groups and I would have the kids sign up. And I just was like, hey guys, this year it's a biweekly schedule, so it's every other week. This is how it's going to work. And so um, they went with the flow, like they understood. And so for me right now, like I try to be more proactive. So they sign up, they know what the topic is, they know, and it's like if they want to come, they can. If they don't want to sign up, they don't have to. But in years past, I was only teaching 1 week out of the month. So I had 3 weeks to kind of be a little more regular with those
Right.
lessons and then have an off week.
Oh, I love that. So it's all mainly like student self-referrals then.
Yeah. So I was saying in that first quarter or that after that first lesson of school year where I pitched the groups, I mean, I can have 100 and something students and just three to
Wow.
five have signed up. And um, yeah, it's something they look forward to.
Yeah, I love that. So when you pitch the group, so this is like your first lesson of the year, are you doing like a meet the counselor kind of thing and then saying like what groups you offer?
Yes, yeah, pretty much. I've gotten a little bit better about that. I think um, I almost had a thing just like dive into that first lesson, but no, definitely
Right.
meet the counselor. This is what it, because every year it's like you ask the question and like you just kind of look at them like, guys, you should know this by now. Like, come on, I've been teaching you guys since,
Right.
like second grade. How do you not know this? But like, it's a
Right.
lot of fun to have that lesson and just go over the groups with them.
Yeah. So when you pitch the groups, I'm so fascinated by this because I've done self-referral for like upper, like middle school or high school, but with elementary, I've always been kind of hesitant to. But I love that your kiddos are like self-aware and want to see the counselor. So
Yeah.
when you're pitching the groups, are you calling them what they are, like a self-control group, self-esteem group, or do you have like a more fun way, like kid-friendly terms? How does that work?
Yeah. Oh man. So what I can remember, can recall right now is I had a group called I Sweat,
Mhm.
EYE, I Sweat. And that was because I had met with a second grade student a number of years ago. Teacher had referred the student because parents were going through a separation. I was talking with a student and he started to get teary, but being a young boy, he didn't want to admit that he was getting close to crying.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh I have eye sweat." And
Oh.
so I was thinking about, our young boys in our school who, get in touch with their feelings, maybe want to talk about something, but they don't feel as comfortable. I called a group I Sweat and said, hey, it's about just talking about learning about our different emotions, what's going on to check in. It's not a group to make you cry or anything like
Right.
that. But it helped. That was a way to kind of help them understand that we all have feelings. And so it had the little catchy title, but yeah, they knew what the
I
group was.
love that. Yeah, that's great. Do you always do these during lunch, like a lunch bunch, or are these scheduled throughout the day?
Uh, right now, yeah, it's just during lunch.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I come to your office and eat lunch with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun. Oh, awesome. It's so fun hearing from you. So tell us, what's something that you wish parents and teachers knew?
Hmm.
Kind of a general question, but I just kind of wanted to see where it was going, whether it's in regards to like, you know, emotional recognition, talking about feelings with their child, or just like about counseling in general. What's something you're just like, oh, I wish more parents and teachers knew this.
Well, I think more so for parents, just this past school year, just the way school counseling maybe is discussed in the media, like the headlines, and all those debates. Like I had a this past year was my first year at our registration day, having a little table set up about like what I do and the role of a counselor and the materials I use, the books that I tend to that I usually read with students. And without saying, it's like, I'm not here to like tell your kid what to do. I'm not trying to
Yeah.
like force them to believe what I believe or like cross some line or indoctrinate them or something like that. Like I'm just here to be a support to parents in any sort of way I can. I'm a resource. And
Hmm.
we're walking alongside your student and we all want the best for them. And I say that because this year was the first year where I had to I was asked to share a couple of my lesson plans with a family because they were very concerned about what is this social emotional? What is happening? What's going on in there? And it's like, well, one of our school lessons or tenets is leadership. And so we think it's important to talk with students about how to be a leader and what does that look
Right.
like, right?
Right.
So for parents this year, it's just helping them to know that, hey, we're a support system. Oh, we're not here to like speak over you or replace you
Right.
like that. So
No, I love that. Yeah. I love that you're taking a proactive approach to it. Were the parents pretty receptive when you had your table? Were people stopping by?
yeah, yeah. Usually in the past, for like registration, I was like always like running copies for someone or just like maybe help
Hmm.
with crowd control or just kind of like welcoming people. But no, they were very receptive and like saying, hey, so my kid's been dealing with this summer, or they tend to be very shy here. And so it was really after like what 3 years, it kind of like it felt like the first time I was really connecting with parents, and they were very receptive, and there was no issues or anything.
Yeah, that's great. I've
Yeah.
done that before too. Like at a back to school night, just kind of
Mm.
have like a little table with some information. And I would even say, like, I had parents on the spot be like, how do I sign my kid up? Oh my gosh, they
Yeah.
need this. And a lot of times they don't even know that it's like a free service. They're thinking, you would have to go to some like outside
Yeah.
counseling or something, but it's like, it's free. It's at your public school. Like, come on in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that. And just of course, a lot of the fear is around like the unknown, right? So I think
Right.
when you can get ahead of it and say, this is what it is, it's a
Yeah.
positive thing, we're working alongside you. I love that you
Mhm.
phrased it that way. Yeah, I think that's great. What about so how long have you been a counselor again? How many years have you been doing this?
Um, yeah, I think I just wrapped up year 5 as a school counselor.
Nice. Okay, so you're 5. So what advice would you give to someone who's going into their first year as a school counselor?
Hmm. I mean, for me, I feel like I'm so what was that counseling theory that I had to write about in grad school, like person-centered. So
Yes.
like me, like when I first was in a school, I was actually a dean of discipline, and that was something. Um, and I went to our social worker, kind of asking her for advice, and her main thing was just connecting with students. I mean, to me, like that's what's most important. Like we have our lessons to teach, we have our responsibilities, the thing that ASCA guides us toward. But for me, it's like it's about the students. So like get to know your students. So I'm a pretty visible person, whether it's in the cafeteria, um, recess, just in the hallways. Like kids know who I am. Like I'm very visible. So to me, like when you're going to a school, you're there to work with students, serve the students. So you got to know your students.
I love that. I know. And I know my first year as a counselor, I was too in my office too much. I was trying to like plan something or prep
Yeah.
something, but I feel like I wasn't as visible as I should have been. And so that's something I love that you encourage counselors to do that because I agree. Just being that person on campus, a familiar face, and like you can make so many connections and changes out of like the instructional time or the scheduled one-on-one time or scheduled small groups. So that's so
Definitely.
important.
Yeah.
So great. Well, it's been great to hear from you, Bradford. Thank you for coming on and sharing. Where can the listeners find you if they want to connect further and see what you're up to?
Yeah. I'm trying to be better about social media and sharing things of substance, not just so many selfies of me getting iced coffee. But like, they can find me on Instagram at the Good Counselor, and it's the same name even on TikTok, the Good Counselor.
Oh, okay. I'm not on TikTok, but I'll have to check that out. I tried, but then I gave up.
Yeah, I'm kind of there too.
Yeah. Okay. Fun. I love that. We'll definitely link to all of that in the show notes. Oh, and I meant to ask, you said you were in a disciplinarian role
Yes.
before, right? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What was that like? That's so interesting because it's so different than the role of the counselor.
Yeah. So, I mean, when the student wasn't doing what they're supposed to, I was called in, and I mean, it was difficult just because it led to me being the one to make those calls about suspension or make those
Mm.
decisions. And it was there were some pretty hard days just because you'd have those students who, they're moving furniture around in a way that's not great, or they're saying some pretty horrific, violent things, and you're just kind of following them around the building because the struggles were real. And so uh, there was a lot of learning that year. And so I'm grateful in my school counseling role to not have to make those calls.
Right, for sure. But I think that's so cool that you have that experience because
Yeah.
now I'm sure you can empathize with the person at your
Yeah.
school who is doing that because a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
times we kind of butt heads with those roles. So
Definitely.
that's good to hear. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time for coming on. It was so good to hear from you and just what you're up to at your school site. It's always inspiring to talk to other counselors.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to School Counseling Simplified. You can find the links from today's episode in the show notes. If you'd like to connect with Rachel, she's on Instagram and Teachers Pay Teachers at Bright Futures Counseling. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes of School Counseling Simplified. Talk to you next week.